Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? My name's Kaylin Miller, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Universal. And before I hand it over to this lovely panel, I wanted to tell you some things that we have going on in our showroom this market. So we have 2 new collections this market, Birch Haven, which is located on floor 2, as well as in addition to our modern collection on floor 3. So if you have time, definitely check those out. These ladies have also placed plaques throughout our showroom highlighting some design features, pieces in our collections that fit the Biophilic aesthetic. So definitely, as you're walking around the showroom, look for those signs throughout. I also want to invite you to a cocktail hour that we're having after this event. If you go through the lobby here into the cafe, we have a really pretty outdoor space where we'll be having that cocktail hour. So definitely come join us there. Now, if everybody will help me give a warm welcome to our panel, and I'll hand it over to them.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My mom and I, Jillian Hayward Schaible and Susan Hayward from Hayward Design House are going to be moderating today. We are so excited to be here, first of all. We're going to be talking a lot about biophilic design and wellness in design. All of us have very different perspectives on what that means in our business, so hopefully you'll get a good view today from different perspectives, residential, commercial. So we just want it to be very chatty. If you guys have any questions, we'll take lots of questions at the end.
So first, we'd just like to have a little introduction to everyone. As Jillian said, Jillian Hayward Schaible, Susan Hayward. We're from Hayward Design House, and we're in Milton. And we would like to introduce our panel here. We'll let you say a little bit about yourself and what type of work you do.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristi Hopper. I'm from the Dallas area, a town called Coppell by the DFW airport. And I've been in business for 25 years. I do commercial and residential, and I also do product design. And I also have a little product at Buc-ee's, if anybody knows what that is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathryn Hunt. I'm an interior designer from West Hartford, Connecticut, and I also do product design. I have a little textile line of boutique wallpapers and rugs, and I'm so excited to be here.
Amazing. So we are going to start with our first couple questions.
So we all have a little bit of a different type of business. Jillian and I do a lot of renovation, and Kristi does a lot of kitchens and baths, and Kathryn does a lot of new builds. So the first question that we have is just, how do you use biophilic design in that particular space? And how is it the same, and how is it different as it transfers from one area to the next? Kristi?
So I do a lot of kitchens and baths, but I do full line remodels, and I did just do a new build in a place called Decatur, Texas. It's a ranch. And one thing we did for them, which was really interesting, is we did custom wallpaper. They have a windmill on their property, and she wanted the windmill in the wallpaper. So we did the hills and we did the windmill. So, you don't get much more biophilic than that. That one just came to mind because it was so personal, right? And I think that biophilic design gives us that opportunity to be able to make it very personal and to be able to bring, it made her so happy to have the windmill. And she calls the property Lola because she says it's her husband's girlfriend. It's so cute, right? And he loves that windmill. So, we have somebody in Dallas that can print wallpaper for us, and if you can dream it, they can make it, right? So it was a great opportunity.
Yeah, biophilic design is interesting because it's really about bringing nature in the home, and I look at that as bringing a feeling of the outside in. We do a lot with sustainable woods. We do a lot with barn woods that we take down actually the barn and reuse it and repurpose it, give it new life. And we do a lot with clay and plaster, which is a great material that kind of actually detoxes the air as it's living on your walls. So even with new builds, that's kind of the way that we incorporate it, and whether our client knows it or not, we are giving them a more holistic lifestyle. Yeah.
I want some of that barnwood. Can you ship some of that to Texas? It's fabulous.
What's that? What? Oh, thank you. Yes.
I love that. And so Kathryn kind of touched on that a little bit. So biophilic design, really, we are bringing the outdoors in, and we're not just doing that because it's beautiful. We're doing it because it's benefiting our clients' health, right? And it was interesting that you just said, Kathryn, that whether they know that or not. So can you expand on that a little bit? Because Susan and I run into this all the time. Using words like neuroaesthetics and biophilia, sometimes that can kind of turn someone off and their brain's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. So how do you implement that? Do you have the conversation, or do you just do it in your design?
Right. Well, this is actually not something that clients ask for. We talked about this. We actually sat together on the plane, which was really funny. Clients don't generally come to us and say, you know, we're looking for wellness in our home. We're looking for wellness in our lifestyle. So we just tend to incorporate it because we believe in it. So we believe in sustainable woods, and we believe, you know, in very high quality pieces and collecting those pieces, you know, and as heirlooms and passing them down, versus going with something that is not going to, you know, your children aren't going to want to take. So.
And do you have that conversation with them after the fact, and you're like, hey, guess what? Here's why I chose this, or do you just not really ever talk about it?
We talk about it when they see the price.
Yeah. Yes.
Because natural woods
Sure.
tend to cost more. So when they see the price point of that, and especially now with all of the tariffs and the increase in price, we tend to have that conversation during that time. We can say, you know, this is something that might last you 4 or 5 years, or this is something that's going to last you probably 30, and you're going to pass on to your children. So
Get
you're
what you pay
making that
for.
investment once.
Yes. And this is really kind of a bigger conversation of why do you think that wellness has become such a central value for high-end clients in recent years? Kristi, do you want to start?
So last week, my clients were doing a cleanse. We have a new juice bar in our town, and they were like, oh, we're doing this 3-day juice cleanse because it's so healthy and it gets rid of cancer cells. And my daughter's a nurse, and she said that's not true, by the way. But it was a really good opportunity for me to talk about why we selected the wallpaper we did and why we selected the countertops we did. Because, you know, I said, well, you know, I want to talk to you about your house because this is healthy for you too, because we brought the nature in, and they have this beautiful home with, it overlooks like this green belt. It's gorgeous. They have these big windows, so we took all the window coverings off because they don't need them. They have great windows, so they don't need them. So I talked about that, and I said, you know, this helps you disconnect. This helps you love your space, and it makes you healthier. And this is for, like you said, for years to come, right? So I heard somebody talking about buying a $150,000 car that you're going to get rid of in 4 years, but if you spend $150,000 on your house, you're going to have it for 20 years. It was Rainey from Houston that was talking about that on her podcast, and I was like, that is such a great thing to tell our clients because it's an investment, and it's an investment in your well-being and your health. And, you know, I have a tagline that says, love where you live. I don't know where that came from, but it's if you where you go every day and you sleep and you eat and you live is you love it, then you're going to be healthier.
Living in New England, of course, everything is so traditional, and to, you know, as Jillian said, going in and try to use words like biophilic design and neuroscience is never a good thing. So what we try to do is we try to go in and say, we want to try to blur the lines between the outside and the inside. And the way that we do that is through color. You know, we literally will look at what are we seeing through their windows. Like, what are the colors? What's the landscaping? And try to bring some of those tones, some of those textures in with us. What other types of things do you ladies also do to help to blur the lines, to bring things in from the outside?
I often, before we start any new build project, I go and visit the site because we do a lot of coastal homes that are on the water, and sometimes the architect has never even visited the site. They do not know that the view from this side is much better than the view from this side. So we worked on a home that the architect was Connecticut-based. The project was out in Long Island, New York, out in the Hamptons. And I had the plan for a couple of weeks, went to visit the site, and I walked in and immediately changed the location of the kitchen because he had the kitchen sort of in the back of the house where you're not going to see any of the water views. And I said, well, that's not going to work. You know, you have to have the best views in the house because that's where everybody's going to end up so we ended up moving the kitchen.
How did that change the rest of the design for the house?
Well, it made the views much better.
But the other rooms, like, did that do anything?
It didn't really. We put an office back towards the street. We ended up moving the configuration of the living room so that part of it got a view of the water and part of it didn't, sort of where the TV was going to be. And it really worked out for the family, and in the end, they were much happier.
For sure. I mean, the kitchen's the heart of the home.
I was just about to say, I love how your brain went immediately to like the kitchen needs this view, right? Because that's where we're spending so much time. And that is really kind of the crux of this whole idea, is that bringing the outdoors in is for our health. When we're cooking for our health and our enjoyment. And so having those two things, I love that you chose the kitchen. That's amazing.
Right, and the windows.
Yeah.
Having that natural light from the sun coming in.
Yeah, amazing. And so sorry, Kristi, did you want to add anything before we?
Well, I think Patty, do y'all know who Patty Carpenter is? She's a national trend ambassador. She studies everything from overseas and brings it back and tells us what the trends are, right? And she will tell you the number one color in the world is blue. We've got the water and the sky. And, I get so tired. I'm like, can we do some green? Can we do anything else, please?
Jillian, she's been
Kristi, we're going to talk after this.
Okay. But I mean, green's
We haven't
outside
played this
too.
game.
Green's outside
The blue
too.
Green's my
Right,
favorite
right.
color, too.
But I think, and a lot of people just they're comfortable with blue. And it makes them feel calm and happy, And so I don't always fight it anymore. I try not to, because it's like, well, they're comfortable with that, and it's bringing that calm feeling to their home. So that's one way I blur the lines, is with color.
Yeah, and I love that you said that blue equals calm, because there's so many ways in different rooms that we bring in different colors to emote different feelings, right? So blue we may want in a really calming bedroom, and you walk into a living room, you might want some more, warm colors to really energize you, right? So that's such a great, I love that you mentioned blue for calm. There's so many ways to bring colors for, energy and other feelings as well. And so how do you guys specifically blend the warmth and authenticity of nature with the refinement luxury experience? Because those things, right, there's a fine line between having that organic feel and having that real natural experience. And I know, Kristi, you have a light that you're introducing with beautiful biophilic elements, and Kathryn, you have this wonderful textile line. So it'd be great if you guys can kind of expand a little bit about how each of you use that in your own practice.
Well, I had been somewhere, and I probably had heard a talk about biophilic design, and I was on an airplane, and I drew a light, and I called it the biophilic light. It looks like leaves, and it's at the big building now in Hamilton. It came to life. I'm doing a light for Vera Lou's, a line for Vera Lou's starting in January. So they just kind of launched it. And it's really interesting to hear people talk about it, because everyone said, oh, I really like that. And I do think it's because it's gold. It doesn't look like real leaves, but it has that feel that makes you comfortable. Which I didn't anticipate. I mean, it just came out of the brain, right? It's one of those things, but I didn't anticipate everybody really liking it. And all the feedback so far has been that. And I think we naturally gravitate, like there's a plant in the corner over there. It makes it feel grounded, right? So we automatically do that stuff, but now we have a talking point, is how I think.
I don't think there's anything more luxurious than aging gracefully. And I feel the same way in a home, and so we tend to pick products like marble, honed marble, natural woods, all things that are going to patina and age gracefully and last and be timeless and classic.
I love that, especially mentioning the patina. We talk about that all the time with woods and with tables, and we're like, the more you bang it up and the more your kids, roll their trucks on this table, the more beautiful it's going to become over the years. So I love that you use that. Yeah.
So there's all of those products that you can see that are beautiful and luxurious, but what about those products that you can't see that are wellness related? What are some of those things that you use in your practice?
Like water.
Exactly.
So being that we do a lot of new builds, we try to use a filtered water system within every single project. We do projects that are on town water, We do projects that are on well water systems. And either way, I really think it's important that you have filtered water for your home. That's extremely, probably one of the biggest things when we're finishing home,
Yeah, it's something that any one of us can do when you're doing a kitchen. Do like a reverse osmosis system, and that will help the water system in the home.
I agree with that. Also, all the appliances, if you have a steam cook, if you have a speed cook, and even in your bathroom, you can filter the water coming out of your shower. Some of these things are new, right? There's a filter that Kohler does right on the shower head. And I think those are really, and we don't always talk about the kitchen and bath products like like an RO system. It's really
Electric
important.
range hops too.
Yeah, exactly, instead of gas.
Right. Especially in New York City and in some of the big cities, gas is actually, you're not going to be able to put it in your home anymore. So they are, they're making you move towards electric, which is healthier for the environment and healthier for your family. So.
And the induction's faster than gas anyway. And but in Texas, we'll probably always have gas. Just so y'all know. Yeah, just so you know. We're probably not getting rid of gas, right? But last year at KBIS, I did a panel with some people, and one of the guys was from California, and he's brilliant, really smart. And he was like, I would rather not drink water than drink unfiltered water. I'm like, well, okay, double down. But I think it's becoming so important because there's so many bad things in the water and not necessarily, like we're not going to die from it, but it's just healthier not to get fluoride, for instance, in your water. It's healthier for all kinds of things.
We may have to do less cleanses, right?
No more cleanses, right? Exactly.
It's interesting how you were talking about, different areas in the country and how that changes. So for a very long time, I lived on the West Coast and Susan was still on the East Coast. So we were kind of a bi-coastal design team. And, some of the things that we were picking for different projects on different coasts, we worked together on everything. But some of the things that my clients were coming, knowing they wanted or asking for in terms of sustainability and wellness, right, in our kitchens and our baths. When I lived in San Diego, we didn't have the luxury of like every time you're brushing your teeth to leave the water on the whole time. You do your toothbrush, you close it, you brush, you do it again. So water is a natural resource that wasn't available as much. Now,
Not in Texas.
yeah. So right. So my question is, are you when you're doing especially kitchens and baths and things like this that do drive appliance changes and things like you mentioned, Kathryn, gas? Are your clients coming to you asking for these things? Do they have this knowledge already? Or is it really up to you guys to say, hey, listen, here's what we're choosing. This is more sustainable or this is more energy efficient. Is it driven from you or is it driven from them? And if it's driven from you, how
It's
do you
driven from me,
explain
for
that?
sure.
Yeah.
They don't know what induction is.
Yeah.
And I'll go, well, let's look at the induction. It's faster than gas. They're like, no, I don't think so. And then I have a friend that lives in Comfort, Texas, near Fredericksburg, where the big flood was in Texas. And she moved from Dallas, and she's like, I couldn't cook on this cooktop. And then I figured out, like, and she had to show me how it worked, right? And I was like, I know, like, right? Like, I'm so proud of you that you're excited about this. But they refuse pretty much until, if I can go show them. Do you agree with that?
I do. What we have to understand is we are professionals. We know the market and know these appliances and know what is happening before the trend happens. And so our clients are not usually coming to us to say, I want this to be sustainable. We are trying to lead and bring it to them to say, well, this is the sustainable option. So.
Sometimes it's also the contractors that you have to educate. We're in the process of a job, we're renovating a kitchen, and we were refinishing a floor, and only to find out the contractor was planning on using an oil-based stain on the floor. And we're like, no. We're only going to use a water-based stain. And he was trying to convince the client that that was not a good idea because it's not going to last, the colors aren't going to be as rich. We had to really step in and say, no, that's non-negotiable. This is going to be a water-based product, to the point where he said, fine, bring in your own people because my people will only do it this way. We said, great, we'd be happy to do that. And we did, and we brought someone else in. So sometimes you have to sort of take that stand and look at where you kind of draw the line.
Right, and as far as vendors go too, we really appreciate vendors that also are ahead of the game with that. Like, Benjamin Moore and Universal, people who are already thinking about sustainability and making it a little bit easier for us as designers.
Yeah, even in appliances like SKS, like they have the big range that's got sous vide, gas, and induction. And that's a hard sell for me because but I have sold it once. Well, no, twice actually. One person had a chef, so he didn't care. But, I mean, they're ahead of the curve, right? And they teach us. And even with lighting, I think lighting is another really important thing that helps with the calm of we don't put things on 5,000, we put them on 3,500, right? And we just do that without them even knowing.
So how do you vet some of those people? How do you vet the artisans when they're doing, the wood that you're taking from the barns? And how do you vet your contractors to make sure that they're following along the product, with the processes that you want in the home?
I try to vet every single contractor and subcontractor that we work with before we start a project. Now that when you're doing multiple, you end up working with the same people over and over. So you do know the quality you're getting. But if it's a vendor that you're trying to test out, get a sample, pick up the phone and call. I can't pick up the phone and call. Don't just send an email, right? Have a conversation with the person on the other end. And if they're going to be passionate about it too on the other end of the phone, then you've got a good connection there. So.
Yeah, and I'm lucky. Like my countertop and floor people, I've had all 25 years of my business. But I always have to drag them along. Like, okay, we're not going to do granite anymore. Years ago, we're going to do quartz and quartzite. No, we're not. I'm like, yes, we are. And now we're going to do porcelain, right? We're going to move over to Decton, and we're going to. No, we're not. I'm like, yes, you are. So that's how that goes. So, but usually for somebody really new, I like to use them either in my office or in my house. Like one time I had this wallpaper guy, and I'm like, okay, he came from Sherwin-Williams. I'm like, he's going to be great. Yay. Oh my God. It was the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life. So I couldn't hire him. Thank God I did that in my office first. That's just one small example. But, I try to use them first or get referred by somebody else that has. But you're right. You gotta talk to them.
Are there any specific things that you're looking for, like specific certifications in terms of sustainability or product sourcing or anything that are non-negotiable for you, or maybe some things that are pluses but not always necessary? Can you talk a little bit about that in your process?
Sure. That really depends on the project. We've had, we've done a net zero home. And so everything inside that net zero home had to have a certain certification. We've done a commercial project, and again, everything inside the commercial project has to have a certain certification. So sometimes we are looking for specific things. In residential, not necessarily.
What about the cost on that?
Yeah.
That's one of the pushbacks that we get from clients all the time is, the more sustainable products that you have, that's cost driven. So to do a net zero home, I'm sure the entire cost of that project was substantially higher. How do you get around that part with your client?
Yes and no. For that net zero home, we sourced a lot locally. We tried to do as much locally as we could, and that means an artisan who made tile for the entire home who lives up the street. So we actually took a tree from the property and had it milled down for their dining room table.
I love that.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Not only does it, help with the environment, but how, we did a panel earlier yesterday and talking about personalization of the home. Our job is to make their house their home. So that's just like, it's the area, it's from their own neighborhood. That's amazing. Love that.
but there are added costs, especially in commercial projects. There's always an additional cost if you need to have it a certain level.
Commercial, that's like another whole.
Well, water-based stain on the floor, I mean, that's non-negotiable for me. I haven't done
Yeah.
oil-based, I can't remember how
We
long.
were kind of horrified.
I would be horrified.
Like
It's like, dude.
we sent out the stain chart, and just with the assumption that it was going to be water-based, and they came back and said that the stain wasn't available in the product. And I'm like, what?
Yes,
We
it
always use
is.
Bonus stain. What do you mean? I know this color. And they're like, oh, but it's not.
Oh, big fat
So that's
liar.
how they were looking at the wrong color chart. They were looking for the oil, and we're like, no, no, no. Particularly a client who had a hard enough time just with the plaster going on. You know, they had to practically get out of the house for 2 days. So what was going to happen when they were doing floors, that smell stays there literally for weeks.
One time I had a client that wanted no VOC paint,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't believe me. So I had to get documents from Sherwin-Williams talking, like I had to call their headquarters and talk to them about it. He just wouldn't believe me. So I finally printed it off and had my painter talk to him. I told him everything, but he was insane about it. And, you know, even the zero VOC paint has a little smell. And he was like, oh, it's making me sick. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, dude, so I've had that happen too, which, you know, I took it really seriously because people have allergies, and, you know, that's another thing. Like, if you do wood floors, you have less allergies. There's other things we do that we just do that are still biophilic design that we don't necessarily talk about to them, but we say small things rather than talking about biophilic design. But the paint is really serious, like the smell of the oil-based floor, you know? I think that's biophilic 101, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wellness, really, it's all
Right.
holistic. You know, we talked a lot about paint and stains and, you know, different materials that we use that are more sustainable. Another whole aspect to this is the waste that we use as designers, right? Like, how much new furniture are we putting in landfills, and when we're going and, you know, taking all of their furniture out, and what are we doing with it? And what are, you know, are there any ways? So, for example, Susan and I had a residential client who we were redoing their countertops, and the stone was still beautiful that they had, but they were ready for something new. So we had a commercial project at the same time. We were able to actually take that stone and put it in our commercial project in their back hostess station. So it was great to be able to kind of reuse products. We do a lot with, you know, reupholstering or reusing older pieces and trying to be sustainable without creating waste. Are there any, you know, do you guys do that at all in your practice? And if so, is it maybe a material that you tend to go to more in terms of thinking about less waste?
Well, we use a lot of lumber, so that's one thing that we do. We also just antiques as far as furniture. I feel
Yes.
furniture is a hard one for me because I feel like a lot of it does end up, you know, in landfills. But antiques, and anytime we can use an antique, we try.
Love
Yeah.
that. Love that.
I try. I do have people that will come and pick up furniture that people don't want anymore and take it and donate it. And that piece has helped a lot with people not just throwing it away. And they can pay them a small fee and they will go and donate it to like a resale shop. So that's helped some. And then, you know, I think we do waste more than we should, if I'm
Sure.
really being honest.
Yeah.
But, you know, we get to that point where, you know, we're trying to get the job done, and it's something I should think about more, honestly. But, you know, we have a lot of irons in the fire, so sometimes we don't think it through. But I've tried as much as I can, but usually they break those countertops, you know. Sorry.
Oh, no, of course. Makes sense, right? You can't always do it. But antiques is such a great thing, and that's sometimes, you know, why clients come to us as designers too, because antiques are something that they're not going to be able to find in anyone else's home. So not only are you choosing something that's more sustainable, you know, in terms of design, that's why we're going, right? It's a beautiful storied piece. It has history. It has a story to tell, and it's exciting that you're putting it in there. In their home. So how has embracing biophilic design helped position your firm or brand in your market?
I wouldn't say it's helped position. I think that as a designer, I've made a choice to use quality products, and I've made a choice to kind of insert, you know, my viewpoint wherever I can, even if I'm not explaining to the client so much so that this is, you know, healthy for you. I think it's really important as a designer to kind of find who you want to be and what you believe in, and kind of stick with it and do you, honestly.
Yeah, it's really a core value, right? Yeah. Kristi?
I don't really think it's positioned me much, honestly. I think once you're a professional and good at what you do, then people just come to you and they, like we talked about earlier, they expect us to be leaders, right? So when we explain to them, you need an RO system, they do it, right? And so I don't know that, I don't think it's like positioned me necessarily. I think it's just that people know they can count on me to be a leader in the industry.
Yeah, and I think, and Susan and I talk about this all the time, we don't get clients because they're like, oh, they're the biophilic designers in our area, right? That's not something that we lead with. It's not why people come to us. But us all as designers, we are doing biophilic design, whether you know it or not. We're drawn to certain colors. We're drawn to certain shapes and materials, all because innately our brains are triggered to love these things and are triggered to have certain feelings, right? So maybe you don't know that it is positioning you there, but it is because you're doing it naturally, which is amazing.
So what opportunities do you see for designers to expand their business offerings through a biophilic lens? Now, we already kind of heard a little bit about, your lighting and your textile line, but what other types of opportunities do you think are available for, for designers out there?
Well, we've talked about antiques. I think it's
Yeah.
always important to get
Sure.
antiques in there. I think it's always important to understand where your furniture is coming from, especially your products, and talking with your vendors, really. Yeah.
Right. We have, I'm not going to say that. So there are there are
among friends,
places
Kristi,
where
it's
people
okay.
can shop that I steer them away from because it is landfill, right? It's not going to last more. Like I heard once, and if anybody's here from Wayfair, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Wayfair has a 50% return rate. And they had, this is something I experienced a couple weeks ago on Columbus Day when they had just had a Amazon Prime Day, and I was there mailing something for a vendor packet for something. The line wrapped all the way around the store for everybody returning things from Amazon. And I was like, oh my God, look at the waste. They were all putting them in a plastic bag, printing out a label. They'd already thrown away all the stuff it came in. And I'm like, I'm going to stop ordering from Amazon. Like, why can't I just walk into a store and buy stuff? Do I have to be this lazy, right? So I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, this has to stop, and it's the same with so much of what we do, like furniture. Like, it can't just go to the landfill. You can't just buy that cheap stuff. And you don't have to spend millions of dollars, but, we have the mid-tier, like, Universal's not overpriced at all. Why can't we buy everything from Universal? It's going to last a long time, and that's what I try to tell my clients. Like, don't buy junk. Even if my daughter is in her 20s, even for her friends, I tell them, let me help you. Don't buy junk. And they've gotten to where they do,
One thing that I do also feel very passionate about is rugs. There are a lot of toxic chemicals that go into certain types of rugs. I always try to convince clients to go with a natural product, like a wool or a cotton or a linen. Wool tapestry rugs have been around for hundreds of years, and they last. And you clean them, and they're beautiful, and they last, and they're healthy for your family. So I really always try to convince clients to go that direction versus a polyester.
Wool sometimes gets such a bad rap. We had a client who actually has a lot of health problems, and we're specifying rugs, and she said, I can't get wool because, of all of the allergens. I would rather get a nylon or a polyester. We're like, no, you don't understand. There's no allergens that are going to come from wool, but you're going to get a lot more problems with the plastics in the nylon and in the polyester than you will ever get from the wool.
That's a really good point, because wool rugs are become the antiques of the future if you buy them, right? But they're expensive to clean. So I just had this conversation with a client. She had a wool rug. It was beautiful. And it cost $700 to clean it because the dog had an accident, right? So she made me buy her a polyester rug because she could just throw it away if he did it again. So again, landfill. And, I tried to talk her out of it, and she wasn't hearing it. And I think rugs, that's a really good point, because rugs have gotten to where it's just cheap and throw away. Oh, I can change my room in a few years. I don't care. But you're right. We have to start talking about that.
You should ask about her dry cleaning bill, if it's $700 or more.
Well, have y'all heard of the
Or
styler?
her dog training bill.
Have y'all heard of the styler? That's another thing. It's in-home dry cleaning by LG, and you can do it at home, and you don't have to go to the. It's fabulous. Like, you don't even have to plumb it in the wall. saves a lot for the environment.
Okay, I know we want to get to questions, so just one more thing. If just rapid fire, like one sentence. What is one design pet peeve you have around sustainability, or what's one thing that you wish more clients or more designers knew about biophilic design and bringing nature in? No, just like one thought, just a quick thought.
I just finished a course at Cornell on sustainability, and one thing that even me doing new builds, I did not realize how unsustainable plastic windows are. So
Plastic what?
Unsustainable plastic windows are. The frames. Wood, they actually push you more towards wood frame windows because a wood frame window will last longer, and a wood frame window can be stripped and repainted and fixed, and a plastic one goes right into landfill.
Amazing. That's a great one. How about you, Kristi?
I think mostly for me it's about kitchen design.
Yeah.
That I wish people really would pay more attention to their appliances and
Yes.
things that last a long time instead of cheap, fast, and furniture too.
Yes, and that's a monthly thing, right? So you're getting that sustainability. You're absolutely, yeah.
So what's one last call to action that one step that people can do today to help for future generations that you as a designer can kind of bring along?
Yeah, is it getting the word out? Is it maybe talking more to our clients? I think that's one thing that Susan and I always say is we're trying to get away from being afraid that they'll be afraid to hear some of the terminology and some of the science behind what we're doing, because it does matter and it does impact, their wellness. Talking about why we may use certain materials on their windows, right? So here's why we want this natural light in this side of the space, and here's why maybe we're going to use a heavier one over here, or just using, talking about their circadian rhythm and why natural lighting is so important. So things like that, talking about more education. I would say educating our clients, I think, is definitely something that we need to work on.
When you're sitting with your client, they are innately telling you what they need without telling you. We talked about this on the plane, where they're not even really expressing to you that they want a better lifestyle or they want to be healthier or anything. Really, it's just about having that conversation with them and listening to what they really need, and then being able to kind of have, speak to them in their language that convinces them that you need this nice marble, you need this, water system.
Well, back to my clients that were doing the cleanse, they were so excited when I talked to them about biophilic. They were excited. So I think, who wasn't excited when we had our family reunion, they kept watching football over and over, and I said, every time we watch football, you have to listen to me talk about biophilic design for 20 minutes. They weren't excited about that, but they learned a lot. But I think just like you said, talking about it, because my clients were really happy to hear that, and they were excited about it, and they were like, "Oh, cool, we're doing something for our health, not just doing a juice cleanse." Yeah, I mean, because if you're going to do a juice cleanse, you want your house to be healthy, right?
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, this was amazing. Thank you both so much. We're going to open it up to questions. So if anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Or even things that you do in your own practices that are biophilic in nature that you could share with us.
Yep.
So I started out as a biophilic designer only by accident, but then I combined it with neuroaesthetics. So to your point about how the brain reacts, so my mantra has always been, our eyes are the front door to our brain, and that's why our nervous system reacts
Yes.
to what it is.
Yes.
Right? So in California, they're very strict with Title 24. And now there's this new, I can't remember what we call it, but NKBA started this, where homeowners can get credit if you're doing a remodel or renovation and it's still in good condition, and you donate it to Habitat for Humanity. And then Habitat for Humanity will vet that product
and then you can submit it to the IRS or the franchise tax board and get credit for it. Or another organization that's also in California is Make It Better Bay Area, where we donate things so that it doesn't go to the landfill. Is there anything that you ladies have in your state that has something like that? Because what I've learned over the years, especially during COVID, IKEA products. I'm sure that there's some IKEA. There were like 5,000 after, it was so easy to buy that after 1 year, it went straight into the landfill. So I was telling everybody, no IKEA products, even though it's inexpensive. The other thing too is I've been educating my clients. So they were really set on sub-zero refrigerators, right? And they gave it to me, and I looked at the specs, and I called the vendor and I said, wait, we live in California. We need energy efficient. None of these refrigerators are energy efficient. Show it to me on the spec. And then so they were like, oh, well, the panel, I'm like, my client doesn't want panel. You're not listening, right? So I had to now change all of the layout because she wanted a 48, but she wanted panel and it had to be 50. Well, now we have to decrease it to 42 because the 36 was still not energy efficient. Right now I'm talking her into induction because she wants gas, because none of the induction, she wanted the knobs, like the gas, in front. And I spent a lot of time looking. She's like, I don't want to spend on new pots. So how do you ladies, convince them? I'm actually educating, and I bring them to the showroom. And, so when I get back, I'm going to bring them to more showrooms and, tell my client, look, this vendor is not good. It took him 3 weeks to get back to me on another refrigerator.
Yeah, I feel like this is a big answer to your question. There's so many different parts that go into this. First of all, it's talking about the products that you're using and the materials, which we talked a little bit about today, the quality and how that's going to last. In terms of in our state, I don't know of any there may be something in Massachusetts, I'm not sure, that sounds like in California, which is incredible, by the way. That's amazing. I don't know. I know what we do specifically in our design firm. Like I said, we actually will sometimes take things from one house and actually pitch it to another client. Maybe we'll recover things and we'll do something that way. Or we actually had a dining table that we were trying to resell to another client. So we'll try to do things like that. Again, with those, it's almost like the same thing as having an antique, and we're just sourcing it from a different place. So we try to do a lot of that, and also just educating not just your clients but your friends. So my family, we were in the military for a very long time and moved all the time. So IKEA, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many people I would say to my friends, like, I know we move all the time and things break, but if you just get the nicer thing, it won't break. And then we don't have to buy a new dresser every 2 years, okay? So yeah, talking to your friends, talking to your clients. I don't know of anything in Massachusetts other than just trying to resell.
No, and I think it's also knowing your vendors. So you're only really giving them the vendors. I mean, that's a choice that you are bringing to them. So you're telling them the vendors for the appliances, you're telling them the vendors that you are offering their options from. So limit the vendors to vendors that would be within your state's requirements. Anything else?
Oh,
ladies?
yeah, so her argument is about the pots. Like, she wants to spend $20,000 on a Sub-Zero fridge, but doesn't want to get new pots and pans? Like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
What I say is you got to look at it in the future. This is going to be your forever home. You're going to get older, right? So do you really want a gas stove that you forgot to turn off or you accidentally put your hand on? I said there are induction, stovetops, range tops, where it won't burn you. Your adult children won't have to worry about you, right? And so I have this conversation not only with the homeowner, but with their adult children, because one day they're the ones who are going to worry about their parents.
Yeah, aging in place is really important, right? But, I mean, have you checked? Well, we'll talk after.
As designers, you're getting pushback from your client when you're trying to present something that you believe in and is sustainable. As designers, in that case, I tend to try to be very diplomatic about how and what I'm bringing forward and offer solutions. You know, we really are in the business of offering solutions. And so I'll do my research and bring 3 ideas forward and say, well, here's the 3 best options that I've found for you, and this is the price point, and here's the pros and cons of it. You know, and kind of have that conversation that way versus this is what I really believe in. You know, you have 3 solutions.
How diplomatic of you.
We have a
Good.
question.
You're good.
Way in the back?
Yeah.
Yes, I also am an advocate for doing furniture resale, furniture consignment. And if you're in a client's house and we're updating it, I try to use what I can. But as we evolve with aesthetic, I recommend furniture consignment and put it towards other purchases. So that's
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes,
Restore.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I just have a few comments. There are, to the carpet, there are quite a few manufacturers that are beginning to do a recycle program where you can actually send it back and they will recycle it.
Yeah.
And then the Blue Star has an induction range with the knobs. It's on display in Broad Hall. Because the NKVA Coastal and Blue Star made a new display this year, so it's beautiful.
Okay.
And also with IKEA, if it's not broken, they will take it back. They have a recycle program themselves.
Really? I didn't know that. Now, how does that work?
Thank
Do
you.
you bring it back?
They'll give you a price for it, and they put it on their board and sell it.
Awesome. And in the back, yep. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to piggyback off what Kathryn said. I'm here representing the real American hardwood industry. It's really refreshing to hear someone using local hardwood, recycled hardwood. Not only is it biophilic, but it also helps a lot of smaller communities that have been in the hardwood industry for generations, which obviously they're really hurting now because of the tariff situation, but
Yeah.
investing in the local American hardwood can, like I said, be biophilic, but really sustain smaller communities that, you know, it's a luxury product, but these people are also the people who need means of living. So it's really important. As far
Absolutely.
as running, you know, your store, you're educating others, that's also so important.
For sure. Thank
Absolutely.
you. In the front
Yeah,
here?
Thank you.
My question was about, I'm so glad you brought that up about the luxury vinyl plant, because it's a forever product, but that's half the problem is because they tell you, well, it's sustainable because it's going to stay forever, I don't ever have to rip it out. But when it does come out, it goes in the landfill and it's forever. So how do you kind of steer that conversation, like when you want to tell them hardwood versus LVP?
Lately, we've been selling first of all, we do a lot of site-finished hardwood floors. We just do. And they tend to be less expensive right now than even LVP. So my wood floor guy was telling somebody just 2 weeks ago, let's do site-finished hardwoods. It's going to be cheaper for you than the LVP. And you know, I can tell people all day long, my sister lives in a 100-year-old house. They pulled up some carpet and there was wood there. We refinished it and it's still there, right? That stuff lasts. If you do a site-finished hardwood, it lasts for generations. You can refinish it 100 times. That's what we tell people. So I do have sometimes people want LVP because usually it's about pets. And, you know, pets have become so important in our homes. And, you know, when I grew up, they only stayed outside. But now the dog is part of our family. She just is. So people really, and when they have kids, so I still try to do hardwood. And, you know, if you scrape it a little bit, the dog doesn't scratch it too much. You know, it's fine. But
We
I
try to do
can't
the
change
same
their
thing,
mind.
steer them away from it and try a natural product, you know. Tile, another option, especially if they have pets. If it's the right environment, you can even do some sort of a concrete type of a flooring. We do a lot of that with commercial. You know, restaurants, there was a time when in restaurants, LVT was just the only way to go. And we would be putting LVT down, and 3 or 4 years later, we were back ripping it all back up again. Or they wanted beautiful carpet because of the acoustics, so the same thing. They'd be bringing in the carpet, and we would be going in 3 or 4 years later and ripping it all back up again. Now we're doing concrete. And what we're doing is we're baffling, you know, the ceiling and doing other ways in which to mitigate the noise. So be creative in the opportunities and the options that you have, I guess, for your clients. But it is a tough one.
And also just to add to that too, in selecting your product, so in terms of like a wood floor, if you have someone who's worried about, their dog's claws or whatever scratching it, maybe you're choosing a grain or a color that's going to patina better, right? So maybe you're not doing something with quite such a smooth finish, something that has a bit more grain or texture where you won't notice those things as much. Similar to, if they have a black dog, you're probably not going to give them a white sofa, right? So kind of thinking of that in the same sense.
Let the wood patina.
I have a question. Any of you use much cork?
Much cork.
Not in a long time.
So like, pardon?
Not in a long time. I used to.
Clinic. I'm from Rochester, Minnesota, and they still have wings of their buildings that have cork floors that have been around for 30, 40 years. And it's pretty remarkable, and I'm hearing more about it, seeing it, different colors, different products to finish it that are more matte, right? So you're not getting kind of the sheen from it. And obviously, there's so many great things about it. And it can be really durable, so I feel like that's pretty cool.
In residential, we don't generally get that request, but yeah, it's
Cost.
Cost is one thing.
yeah.
Cost
For
and
commercial,
availability.
Yeah.
That's one of the
But I
real
think it's
problem.
naturally cleansing. It helps pull particles and toxins out of the air as well as plaster. But it is a wonderful product to incorporate.
It's a learning curve for commercial, unfortunately. Okay, way in the back.
I was going to ask about plants, other than, traditional ways to have plants and display plants. Do you have any really fun or creative ways that you've integrated plants into any of your products?
Depends on
love
the client.
plants.
Yeah, totally depends on the client. Some clients are like, do not give me anything that's living that I will have to water,
Yeah.
please.
We have one client that Jillian's thinking of right now, and he is like, Christmas time, holidays, please no plants, like nothing. Like I do not want it in my house because it just will be gone. So it really depends on the client. It's wonderful, it's amazing, it does so many good things for the air, but once you're gone, what happens to those plants? And that's what we always like to say. It's like when we leave a job, 6 months from the time we leave, we want it to be like it was when we left. And if part of our design is bringing in all of these plants and they're all dead 3 weeks after we're gone, that sort of changes our whole aesthetic.
Yeah. And if you really want the shot, bring them in for staging for your photos, but really think about their lifestyle. Maybe they're open to doing something green, but you might need to do a little bit of shopping if they need something that's pet friendly. If they need something that only gets watered once a month, you can be creative with what you're putting and where you're putting it there. Maybe, it just needs a very specific home.
We actually had a client that requested that for a bathroom. We did a very open bathroom, and she wanted lots and lots of plants. She also had a cat and 2 dogs. So once you went into okay, there's no windows in here, so we need something where they don't need light, it's going to get a lot of moisture, it's cat friendly, and it's dog friendly.
And it looks pretty.
And it looks pretty. Artificial. It was like there really wasn't a lot of options. So what we did was we did find 2 or 3 different types of plants, but it's a revolving door for them where they're continually replacing it because they're dying and they're putting more in there. So I saw a hand in the front here. Yes.
Yeah, we refer a plant service company. So it's pretty reasonable for them to come in and service the plants, and then if the plant dies, they replace it for
Sure.
free.
We've been like the plant replacer people. But
I go water the plants.
Oh, 5 minutes?
Okay.
One more question? Anyone?
Cork, I have this cork for a bathroom remodel. There's a company in Florida called Atlas, and they actually have this new line now, it's calling it Tuscan wall cork. So it's this organic shaped rectangle. So you put this on the wall and it's beautiful. So you started to look at it for wine rooms, and then I did the penny cork tile on the bathroom floor. All different colors, and you should see their website. The installation is beautiful. I had a question on the site finished hardwood, so you're having the hardwood deliver, and then your contractor sustain?
Yeah, they put down plywood, and then they put down wood, and the wood is about, an inch, maybe half an inch thick.
5 millimeters.
How much, 5 millimeters? You sure? That's what I use?
I don't know what you.
Okay.
Three is the littlest, 5,
Okay.
7.
Perfect. And then, I believe you is what I'm trying to say. I believe you. And then they get on their knees and they scrape it. And then they put a coat of stain and 3 coats of polyurethane. But it's all water-based.
Well, we want to thank you all for coming today, and we want to thank Universal for hosting us. And we want you all to go back and to bring all of this information about biophilia to your clients. Thank you.
And please join us at the cocktail party.
Yes. And thank you to our speakers here, Kristi and Kathryn.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. No, girl.